Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Before we dive on into this, smash up that like button. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you get any value from this content. But otherwise, let's go ahead and dive on in. First things first, we have Decode here. This is probably my fourth time mentioning a chart of decodes in this video. I can't get enough of this guy. Give him a follow on X. Cyclical tops on Bitcoin form around the midpoint of the business cycle, the end of the solid green area, and after liquidity ROC has peaked, the blue part. We've got a long way to go. Again, this is so unbelievably in line with everything that I've been saying for the last 3 years about the 4-year halving cycle just being a massive coincidence and just really lining up with money cycles. And you can see these green peaks here. All three green peaks, they happen to coincide with the peak of the Bitcoin bull run. I mean, the peak of euphoria in 2021 was the first peak. April of 2021, May of 2021, and then we happened to hit a new all-time high in November, but a lot of momentum was already gone by then, and we can see the absolute peak of 2017, the absolute peak of 2013 just happened to be at the midpoint of the business cycle, at the peak of the green part of the blue line, the liquidity ROC, at a peak, having been at a peak for a while. And so what do we make of that? Well, it would make sense to me that, again, I'm going to say it again, that we would not hit a new all-time high in November of 2025. Everyone's expecting November, December of 2025, but that we would hit a new all-time high. Now, we could hit a new all-time high well before then. We could hit a new all-time high in May, but that we would hit a new all-time high with Bitcoin, the all-time high for this cycle, closer to the 2028 halving, so somewhere between April of 2026 and April of 2028, and that this cycle, so-called cycle, would look a lot different in that we would have alt season not anytime soon, like alt season similar to 2021 or to 2018, but an alt season more similar to those times later on, 2026, 2027, something like that. This seems to support that mindset very well. But let's move on. M2 money supply, the hot thing that Bitcoiners are talking about right now, and crypto bros and all that. So US M2 money supply hits 4.2% year-over-year growth in March 2025, peak since July 2022, but still much lower than pretty much any time in the last 25 years. Year-over-year growth, 4.2%. Most of the time, we're above 5%. And look at what happened in COVID. Insane. M2 money supply increased 22%, 23%, up to 28%. But here we are, 4.2%, and this is what we're hanging our hopes on, right? M2 money supply is increasing, and therefore Bitcoin is going to increase. Well, let's slow down a little bit. Let's slow down a little bit as we take a look at these next few charts here. So Bitcoin data 2021, I very strongly resonate with the messaging of this tweet. You guys, just don't fall for this trap that everything hangs on M2 money supply and we're going to hit $140,000 in July. It's possible. It's not impossible. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but you got to keep in mind, once the Bitcoin bull run peaks, what happens after that? M2 will still go up, but Bitcoin will not. So I'm watching how certain accounts are shamelessly squeezing every last drop of engagement with Bitcoin versus M2 offset. Some of these accounts were bearish during the bear market lows, by the way. This is the last point I'll make on it, though, and I only care about logic and transparency. I can see a lot of people getting wrecked by this. Below is M2 offset with 5, 10, 15, 25, 20 weeks. You be the judge if it would have worked out for you if you had bagged held all the way down. So 2013, we see a peak in November of 2013, a double top in December. M2 money supply still going up, but Bitcoin no longer correlating with M2 money supply. Let's go to 2017. You're going to see the same deal here, okay? 2017, same deal. M2 money supply increases. Yay, it's going to still go higher. And I know, now I wasn't making content in 2017, 2018, but I know a lot of people were calling for Bitcoin to go to $50,000 in 2018. Instead, $20,000 was the peak. A lot of people became bag holders. A lot of people who did well in 2021, a lot of people that I know got wrecked in 2017. M2 money supply still went much higher, but Bitcoin's price peaked. It was over. Here we are, 2021. Should we have kept buying after the peak in 2021, after the double top in 2021? M2 money supply, it's going up, but wait, whoa, Bitcoin's price is going down. Make that make sense. Well, here's the deal. Bitcoin will follow M2 money supply until it peaks for the cycle, and then it won't follow it anymore. You can clearly see that. I mean, there is a correlation until it's over. And so if it's over right now, which I'm not entirely convinced it's over, and definitely not over until 2028. But if it's over right now, then M2 money supply is going to keep going up, but Bitcoin will not follow suit. So we'll see what these next few months have to give. Some positive news. There's some positive stuff. Okay, I want to say I do have some positive things to share in this video. It's just that I'm seeing way too many people relying on this M2 stuff. And it's helpful, but it's not everything. So on the positive side, Arizona State approves first ever U.S. Bitcoin reserve, set to invest 10% of $31.5 billion state assets. This is very bullish not necessarily for now. I mean, that's not an insignificant thing. 10%, given how illiquid the supply is. I mean, we're talking about $3.15 billion. That's not going to happen overnight, but buying $3.15 billion of Bitcoin is not insignificant. I mean, look at what happened with the spot Bitcoin ETFs last week. They bought about $3 billion worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's price went up 10%. Now, I know it's not all entirely due to the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but it certainly helped. Does this mean it could that a 10% buy, a net effect of 10% of 31.5 billion buying would be a 10% increase in Bitcoin's price? It might actually mean that, all things being equal. I did not mean to reply there to Carl B. Menger, but this is good. It's a good thing, and it's only the beginning. That's the big thing. That's the thing that has me very, very bullish on Bitcoin long term. So moving on. IBIT, total flows, BlackRock 2 days ago, bought an insane amount of Bitcoin. They bought 10,220 Bitcoin in one day. So if we were to look at the ETF flow, I'll actually pull that up here. It's really interesting because what we saw was BlackRock. They bought a lot, but then we saw some fairly decent outflows with the rest of them. So with Fidelity, with ARK, I don't know what BitB is. Oh shoot, I can't read that. So, and with the third one there, I mean, we're seeing especially with ARK, we saw 226 million of outflows, but the net gain was 591.2 million. And as long as this is happening, I mean, we're talking about 387 million, 938 million, 917 million, 442, 380, and now 591. As long as this is going to continue to happen, it makes sense to be bullish on Bitcoin. But I'll give you a counter warning. The moment this stops, it makes sense to at least be crabbish or maybe even bearish on Bitcoin. So let's see the good times continue to flow here. Moving on, really interesting thing here. Now, I'm not, we'll see. We'll see what this looks like over time. I have a hard time believing that this is going to mark bottoms in the future forever. But miner cost of production signals bottom is in and Bitcoin will surge soon. The historical accuracy of this metric makes logical sense. An asset is not going to trade for less than its cost of production. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, Bitcoin's at $90,000, $95,000 right now, and it costs $95,000 to mine a Bitcoin. The cost of mining a Bitcoin has risen dramatically over the last couple of years. So that would be amazing. You know, historically, let's just say this. Historically, if you bought when the price of Bitcoin equaled the average cost to mine a Bitcoin, you would have made good gains over a short period of time, over a medium period of time, and certainly over a long period of time. I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot of people calling for Bitcoin to go down to $50,000, $60,000 in the bear market, and I think it's actually going to go lower than that. And so, what does that look like for this? Maybe this is just the name of the game. Maybe we will never see Bitcoin under $100,000 sometime soon. That's kind of difficult for me to get on board with. I hope that's the case. I hope, please let that be the case. Let everyone be wrong. Let us all be wrong. I have no intention of selling my Bitcoin anyway, so let me be wrong. Okay, that this seems like, an asset is not going to trade less than its cost of production. We'll see. So, but interesting, yeah, I've circled in red each prior instance in which the Bitcoin price intersected with the average cost of production. All of these intersections were followed by the Bitcoin price making a significant move higher. Let's do it. I expect this time to be no different. Bitcoin is going to make a move up before the end of Q2. Okay, hey, we have things like Arizona buying Bitcoin. We have IBIT, the BlackRock buying almost $1 billion of Bitcoin in a day. Maybe this is a new thing. Maybe this is a super cycle for Bitcoin. I don't want to get struck by lightning right now. Maybe this is it. Time will tell. All right, moving on. Another bullish chart here. I shared this chart last week in a different video, so if you want to check that out. I don't remember the day. You're going to have to find it yourself, but Bitcoin supply mapping update. First buyers and momentum buyers continue to show strong engagement while profit takers' activity remains moderate. This is constructive. It suggests ongoing demand from new and trend-following participants without significant distribution pressure supporting the durability of the recent rally. So we have 5 different cohorts here. First buyers are heavy buying. Over the last couple weeks here, very heavy buying. And momentum buyers also very heavy buying. Now, conviction buyers, they've distributed a little bit, and profit takers, they've distributed a little bit, and loss sellers, they've sold as well. But that's usually what happens is that this is short term, but then first buyers, that's more of a trend. You can see that here. You can see long periods of red for first buyers, long period of red, and now perhaps a long period of green, whereas it's much more sporadic for the other cohorts. So we'll see where this goes, but that looks bullish. Meanwhile, ETH is showing the first meaningful uptick in first buyers since February, alongside with momentum buyer activity over the past 7 days. However, profit takers are also becoming more active, providing context for the recent stall in ETH price recovery. So ETH is actually looking somewhat decent recently. Small baby steps, man. Small win for Ethereum. I like this perspective here. So Alex Stanzik, I do not follow him. I do now. Okay. A thread. Gold is eternal. It's the largest store of value in human history, over $21 trillion and physically indestructible. But after 8 years of running a physical gold fund, I realized something shocking. Bitcoin is better. Here's why. Gold weakness. Final settlement requires humans. Vaults, trucks, planes, customs. If any link breaks, you fail. In 2020 during COVID, I realized if my clients asked for gold deliveries, I couldn't guarantee it. That's when it hit me. Bitcoin solves this. Move any amount of value anywhere on Earth instantly. No permissions, no middlemen, no failures. Pure final settlement at the speed of light. Close to the speed of light. I once thought Bitcoin would be shut down or replaced until I studied it obsessively. Decentralized, anti-fragile, immune to confiscation, and most importantly, absolutely scarce. Humans have never encountered true scarcity before. Land expands. Oil drills deeper. If you're confused about that statement, land expands. There's a lot that we can do with the amount of land that we have to where real estate actually is kind of inflationary. I mean, all you have to do is look at any place that was rural a couple decades ago and then look at it now. I mean, there's plenty of places that I could name in my area, but I don't want to name them because I don't want to give away entirely where I live. And even gold supply grows 1 or 2% every year. That's fantastic, but Bitcoin, 21 million forever. Gold survives chaos. Bitcoin thrives in it. It's faster, borderless, no centralized third party, self-sovereign, undebasable. It is a fundamentally different asset. Today, inflation forces everyone to scramble for hard assets. Real estate, stocks, art, not because they want them, but because they fear the dollar's erosion. This is me. I'm assuming this is you. This was me in 2020. This became, the alarm bells started going off for me in 2020. Why? Because of that chart. Let me pull up that chart again. US M2 money supply hits 4.2% year-over-year growth in March 2025, peak since July 2022. Look at what happened in 2020. This was the melting ice cube at, turning up the temperature by 100 degrees. It's like, my goodness, it was this year, 2020, when I no longer became comfortable holding dollars in banks. My bank account has not that much money. It has basically enough for me and my family to survive for a couple months. And then after that, I just transfer more money. Whatever. If I make some money, I just transfer money out of crypto or out of my stocks. And this is it. This is why. Because let's get back to that thread. Inflation forces everyone to scramble for hard assets, real estate, stocks, art, not because they want them, but because they fear the dollar's erosion. Bitcoin ends that race. It becomes the new benchmark, the ultimate measuring stick for value. $900 trillion in global assets, only 21 million Bitcoin. There are 60 million millionaires. Do the math. If every millionaire decided they wanted one Bitcoin, guess what? They would not be able to acquire one Bitcoin. It's quite as simple as that. And one day, maybe that'll be the case. Gold will always have a place, but Bitcoin is the future of wealth preservation, not just another asset, the foundation of a new financial system. If you're holding gold, real estate, stocks, ask yourself, are you buying because you love the asset or because you're trapped in a system of endless inflation? There's a better way, a freer way, a finite way. It's called Bitcoin, and it's just getting started. All right, moving on. I like the thread. It just communicates a lot of what I love about Bitcoin. And, somebody challenged me a few weeks ago, it's a few days ago actually, asking me what was it about Bitcoin that I love so much. And listen, really, I'm going to be honest with you. I hate the dollar, and I love Bitcoin as a viable alternative to that. But moving on. All right, Edward Mora, Bitcoin dominance. Stuck in his old ways, and he actually admits that, and it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna get there. We're all gonna be on the same page one day, and we have to evolve past the 2020, 2013, 2017, 2021 mindset. This time is different, and it is what it is, okay? So have we ever finished a bull cycle without a significant decline in Bitcoin dominance? I'm not saying that we're going to finish this cycle without a significant decline in Bitcoin dominance, but if you're thinking 2025, then you know what? Yes, we're going to finish 2025, in my opinion, without a significant decline in Bitcoin dominance. This is what's weird to me, and while the alt season as we know it is no longer possible because we have a million times more coins now, no! That's not why we haven't had alt season. Okay, I've explained that millions of times. I'm not going to get into that now. Most big established names never really pumped this cycle. In fact, they topped last March, and only a select few of them, exceptions, actually made new highs since then. Maybe we're not over yet. In these last several months, where everything went minus 60 to minus 80% was just a final sell-off before the higher across the board. Maybe I think that because I'm simply a product of 2017, 2021 markets, where it was true. Maybe times have changed. Most likely, yes, they have. And this is the new norm now. Honestly, never been conflicted this much ever before. Edward, I would like to make a suggestion. Just check out the chart in the first part of this video. Okay, it is not for your halving cycles. It is money flow. It has to do with money flow. There will be a time when we go risk on again, but now is not that time. Now's not the time, man, I'm telling you. And so altcoins, what's more riskier than an altcoin? We're going to get there. We're all going to be on the same page one day, but we have to experience a cycle. We have to get to the end of 2025 before the masses wake up that we're not entirely on a 4-year program. We'll get there. We will. Moving on, lastly, really interesting thing that has nothing to do with crypto. This is one of the most important charts I've seen in a long time. AI alone could drive electricity demand equivalent to adding another U.S. economy in the next 5 years. Another point that's probably flying under the radar. Look at the gap between U.S. and China. So there's a lot of fascinating things on this chart. I mean, U.S. and China power generation, my goodness, the amount of power that China is using in comparison to the USA. And who gets the most amount of blame for so-called climate change? It's probably the United States, even though China is producing a lot of power and producing a lot of materials, But look at AI. I mean, that's fascinating. But then looking at AI on this chart, wow. All right, this is the projection for what AI, the demands for AI. What's that going to look like in 2040, 2050, 2060? It's going to be pretty crazy. What's the point of this chart? Well, think about what would benefit from that and where to invest. So Octavio Tavi Costa, great last name, just great last name. Metals, mining, and infrastructure. All right. 3 words come to mind: metals, mining, and infrastructure. Let's see where this takes us. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But where is Bitcoin? Hanging around $95,000. Looks bull flaggy. I don't know. I've compared this stretch of time to the same stretch in November. Maybe this is it. I've seen this chart before. It reminds me similar to February of 2024. Is this time going to be similar to that? I've presented with you on this channel a lot of short-term bullish indicators. And so maybe the next step is something like this. You can see this is kind of my projection for what I think is coming next, a barely a new all-time high for Bitcoin. Maybe after that all-time high, a moment where alts can thrive, or maybe even before that all-time high, a moment where alts can thrive. And then I think it's over for 2025. I'm sorry. But what comes after that, in my opinion, is the buying opportunity of the decade. And 2026, similar to 2023, 2023 was a great year to accumulate crypto. And then perhaps after that, a moment where the stars align and we see, the money cycle align, and we see lots of risk on activity happening to where we can benefit financially. Looking at the charts here, looking at things like coinmarketcap.com, we have Trump and Fartcoin, of course, trending on coinmarketcap.com. We have Bitcoin 95, Ethereum $1,819, trying to break through that 1,800 barrier. XRP $2.28, Binance 602, Solana 148. It's been a pretty boring week to start to the week so far. We'll see. Maybe this week is just a chop. We have Fear and Greed at 53. We have total crypto market cap 2.98 trillion. Altcoin season index still very low. I wonder why. I don't know. I've shared on this channel many reasons why. But okay, anyway, that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week. Smash up the like button, comment, hit the subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'll see you in another video. Peace.